Now, kia ora everyone. Kia ora, ko Beverly Southie tēnei, ma haimata, ma Ako Panuku. I'm coming to you live here from the Auckland University campus where we are running our Ngā Hekaheka course in conjunction with Manaaki Whenua. And we are just listening now to Georgina Stewart, Dr. Georgina Stewart, who is talking about the kaupapa, Ngā Hekaheka o Aotearoa, and how it joins into the Pūtaiao curriculum. So I'm just going to walk through, and I'm hoping that you all will be able to hear her, and I can also switch my camera too. So she's just in her course now. I just wanted to introduce it, and we can have a listen, and I will just live a little bit of her presentation.
But this one has a lot of diagrammatic information. It's fully bilingual, and the idea of this, Heaney was involved with this one as well. The idea of it is to provide exemplars of Pūtaiao language, and I didn't bring a copy of it today, but all of the curriculum language that was developed over quite many years was collected together into a dictionary called Te Reo Pūtaiao. That is available online on TKI. It was last time I looked. This book is no longer available in the ministry catalogue, but it will be available again in an online version. He Kōwhaka Reo, it's a new website.
Yeah, it's called The Hub. Yeah.
The Hub.
For all ministry English medium.
Oh, it's English medium and Māori medium. So what's happening with TKI?
It's just establishing, so that's the process they're going through at the moment.
Okay. Right.
Trying to get something that's easier to use and not so many layers.
So crossed. Yeah, that's right. This kind of statement that describes the picture that I had up just before is translated into English here as follows. Grounded in a strong cultural identity, students negotiate two worldviews to fill their own ki te mātauranga, a metaphor for learnings enriched by multiple perspectives on knowledge, values and ethics. So that's the kind of meaning of that. It looks like a kind of a pretty picture, this one I mean, but it has actually got a sort of a pedagogical meaning, if you will. And I think really that the Hekaheka resource illustrates this approach really well, because in the student resource, the blue book that you've all got a copy of, the first part of the book is basic science knowledge about fungi, and the second half of the book is devoted to Māori knowledge and uses of fungi. And that was a very deliberate, purposeful kind of organisation to give each form of knowledge its own space and sort of equality in the book. So that's all I wanted to say about the links to the curriculum. And I suppose I didn't actually say it, but clearly Ngā Hekaheka is a rauropi, it's an organism, and it exists within its biological environment, as we've been hearing about from the previous speakers. So I'm struggling to think. I mean, I think that when you teach about an organism, it's almost impossible to teach about a living thing without teaching about the biological environment in which it lives. But I guess it's a matter of emphasis, yeah. But normally I would expect that the two would tend to go together. But clearly, Hekaheka or fungi in the scientific sense is a brilliant context or sort of topic for teaching about how an organism lives within its biological environment. Ka rona hau I tēnei ata, he whakaahua a hupu tēnei, ko ngā hekaheka nei, he āhua rite ki te whakapapa. Ko mātou ngā tangata pēnei ngā harore ngā ropihua, the fruit bodies, e tuana I rungi I te whenua, engari te nuinga o te hekaheka, kei raro I ke whenua kāhore e kitea. Just reminded me a bit like whakapapa in a Māori way of thinking, we are like little nodes of our whakapapa. The whakapapa is all around us, we don't see it, but it's sort of connecting us, all of us. Yeah. So not meaning to sort of be dismissive of anything, but sometimes these thoughts kind of occur to me. So this is actually my last slide, but I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about, and I think it's probably been quite nicely illustrated this morning too. It's one thing to write a science text like Ngā Hekaheka or Aotearoa. But you don't want to, as the kaiako, you don't like sitting here just being kind of having been blasted with information. Likewise, as a kaiako, you know that your students, there's only a certain amount that they will be able to just sit there and absorb information from a science text. So for me, the point that I'm trying to make in this slide is that we need ways to get children, our students, actively engaging with the science information. So that's what I'm talking about here in terms of ngā momo mahi pūtaiao ātū. And I've just come up with 7. These are the main kind of ways that I can think of that as the teacher you need to do the translating. I'm not talking here about language translating, but translating from the science text into a sort of an activity that your students can engage with. And some of them, well, what I did here was just cheat really by digging up a few old examples of the sorts of exam questions that I've written for past pūtaiao papers, where I've made use of pūtaiao diagrams, because as we can appreciate, in science we can transmit a lot of information through images and then with some text beside them. So I'll just have a quick look at each of these. The first one, here's my thing. I've got a copy of this. So with this one, the water cycle, very popular topic with both teachers and students. And so basically all I've done here is sort of find pikitia on the old internet that don't have any language on the actual image, and then I can add my own text, reo Māori. This one is about, write a sentence that explains what's happening in the water cycle at each of the points numbered 1 to 5. I'm not going to run through the content of these just to show you. This one, he wahanga o te ngahere, the parts of the forest. So I took this picture from a building science concepts book and kind of it was already broken down into these levels, and then we're just going to put more words than what you need, so that there's that you can't just work it out by elimination. So you need to put 1 or 2 extra words there. Ka hore tētahi o ngā kupu e kuia te ana. One of the words is not needed. So this is quite challenging really. It goes from the canopy, the forest canopy, this one, to the sub-canopy. Ururua is this sort of level here of little bushes and so on and so forth. Papa o te mahere, the floor of the forest and so forth. Now, ahu o te marama, this is quite tricky, but it's basically showing the starting here and going around. And the questions ask the student to, first of all, to draw the shape of the moon and the ones that are missing. And then secondly, to choose the date. Oh, I think the choices were down here, they've fallen off. Oh, there's 3 actually. Draw the shape of the moon in those boxes. Match the name of the traditional name for the night of the moon with in the right places, and then write the date of June at some of those points as well. Right? You get the idea. And then the last one, Hurihanga Oro o Te Rākau, the life cycle of the tree. again, just took it from the internet and sort of used Twink or something to get rid of any English words. And the questions are to choose the correct word to, first of all, to name the process, at R, E, or in U. And in this one, for some reason, it's gone wrong. It's supposed to be whakaingoa i ngā wāhanga o te rākau. So those are the sort of parts of the aperture. So those are those. Can I just follow through? Yes. Now, probably the most important way to activate your students' learning with a science text is to write questions and answers. Because as the kaiako, you can make those questions harder or easier, depending on the level of the class that you're teaching. So at the back here, we did that. We have some short answer questions here. You know, you can think of this anything from just finding that information in the text to maybe having to synthesize information from different parts of the text. The score print, great to have a practical activity as part of this resource. We'll find out when we're doing more about that. Then I've got the hanga pānui whakaahua, making a poster. That is a really good activity for getting students to do their own research. So it would sort of be taking the information from the text that you've presented to them and maybe supplementing that with their own research. Then we had some special ones about he mahi a kāinga, the idea of wanting to recover and revitalise the mātauranga around fungi. And you know, it's really interesting with this whole topic of Māori knowledge about fungi, because it's an interesting example of how science knowledge has dominated and pushed off the table Māori knowledge to the point that in New Zealand, based on the kind of the way that we are dominated, you know, Māori knowledge has been the subject of oppression for 200 years now. So it's hardly surprising that there is the general assumption that very little of this knowledge is left. But when Peter and I have gone around a couple of times, like at the launch, when we launched that Te Kura Kaupapa Māori o Maunga Rongo, puta mai ana ngā mātauranga o ngā kaiako pēnei a ētahi o koutou nei. And then the last one is the crossword, and again, this is a very potent way of getting students to engage with the text. Because when you give students something that's like a puzzle, that then there's a sort of motivation to want to finish it, yeah? So that kind of keeps the motivation up. And again, you can make them very simple. You can just have, like, if you're working in a bilingual or even a mainstream school setting, you can just have Māori word, English word. It can be as simple as that. But for your kura kaupapa Māori and whare kura students, you can really make the clues quite challenging. And I think the other ones that I had on the slide there that I've thrown away now is kupu kei te ngaro, so having sentences and taking out keywords. Te whakahangai kukitia, that would be where you've got like words on one side and little diagrams on the other side, and the student just has to draw the line, and that's really good for the younger age children, obviously. If I may have a couple of minutes, and I know our lunch is here, but I just want to play this little video as an example of probably one of the most fulfilling moments in my teaching career, because the student produced a response to the brief, which was to produce a science text in Te Reo, and I have no idea how they did it. So watch and enjoy.
ke matua I puta ke ai ngā kaupeka o te tau I ngā hoki I te raurati e anga nui a ngā papatu anu ki te rā ā ki te takurua e anga ke ana. Ko tēnei te pikitia he hōtoke e naenga ki roto I te tuakau I tonga, he raurati ki roto I te tuakau I raki. Ko tēnei te pikitia he raurati e naenga ki roto I te tuakau I tonga, he hōtoke ki roto I te tuakau I raki. He mahu me ngā kaupeka o te tau ki roto I te Aotearoa. Raumati. Ngā uru. Hōtoke. Koanga. Te takariri. Raki. Tēnei te tuakau I tonga. Tēnei te piki. Kia ora.
So that was just a way for me really to bring to the awareness that it's not only about paper and pencil resources and learning activities, but clearly there's a lot of scope for students to incorporate, particularly video technology and that kind of thing. So that's all I had. We haven't got any questions? Any questions? Any karo? You ever had someone make a really cool video like that?
Just one comment, Georgina. Just on the whole thing around mātauranga and science. I mean, it's something that we're trying to grapple with at Manaaki Whenua.